Welcome back. Oh, wait a minute, wrong show.
Keep going.
In case you haven't realized, it is Chasing the Wind, not counterculture. I'm a little mixed up this morning, but hey, we'll get it all figured out. Welcome, Wind Chasers, to another episode of Chasing the Wind. We're just having nothing but fun down here at Drash Ministries recording studios. I am in front of a live studio audience today, as you heard the jocularity in the background. Today I want to talk to you about, I believe I might have talked to you about this before, but you know what? Sometimes we need to hear something again. So maybe someone new is on today and they're going to hear something. So I want to, go, if you have your Bible, if you don't, just listen. Either way, 2 Samuel 16, starting in verse 5. As King David approached Bahurim, a man from the same clan as Saul's family came out from there. His name was Shimei. I love that name. Shimei. You see him shimmying down the road there a little bit. His name was Shimei, son of Gera, and he cursed as he came out. He pelted David and all the king's officials with stones, though all the troops and the special guard were on David's right and left. As he cursed, Shimei said, get out, you man of blood, you scoundrel. The Lord has repaid you for all the blood you shed in the household of Saul and those whose place you have reigned. The Lord has handed the kingdom over to your son Absalom. You have come to ruin because you are a man of blood. Then Abishai, son of Zeruiah, said to the king, why should this dead dog curse my lord the king? Let me go over and cut his head off. But the king said, what do you and I have in common, you sons of Zeruiah? If he is cursing because the Lord said to him, curse David, who can ask, why do you do this? David then said to Abishai and all his officials, my son, who is my own flesh, is trying to take my life. How much more then this Benjamite? Leave him alone. Let him curse, for the Lord has told him to. It may be that the Lord will see my distress and repay me with good for the cursing I am receiving today. So David and his men continued along the road while Shimei was going along the hillside opposite him, cursing as he went and throwing stones at him and showering him with dirt. The king and all his people with him arrived at their destination exhausted, and there he refreshed himself. So what an interesting story. You ever have those days? Sometimes I think it's an interesting, whenever I often tell my congregation, sooner or later you will find yourself in the Bible. Sometimes you feel like King David. I do sometimes. I feel like I'm just being cursed. I'm being yelled at. I'm having mud clods thrown at me. And it reminds me of the scene, season 2, episode 1 of The Chosen. It was Thunder, when the Samaritans spit on and throw dirt clods at Jesus and James and John. And John says, do you want me to call down fire from heaven to burn them up? And Jesus is like, no, that's not a good idea. That's my loose paraphrase in there. And then Jesus says to him, you wanted you to call on the God of the universe to bring fire down on people. And John says, well, when you say it like that, it's easy for us to get defensive when the mud clouds are being thrown at us. We live in a day where we don't like to be confronted about our behavior, about our wrongdoing. I remember years ago, as a young pastor, it was a men's Bible study one night, and Stu came in. Stu was a great man of God. And he sat in my office, and I didn't think about it. Oh, Stu was just hanging out with me. And he had this look on his face. He goes, Mark, I need to talk to you. I probably told you this story. If I did, you can tell me if I'm telling it right. And Stu says, Mark, I need to talk to you. I said, well, I didn't do it, Stu. He goes, yeah, you did. He instantly had my attention because I knew Stu was the type of man that wasn't going to tear you apart. He wanted to help build you up. And he knew as a young pastor, he apparently saw something in me. And so he told me what I had done, and it was purely innocent. And, I apologized and said, man, thank you for showing me that. I didn't realize it was when I was preaching, I would say something, and he was concerned about the effect it might have on one of his sons-in-law. And it needed to be said differently is what it was. But I knew that Stu loved me, and so I didn't take it as a curse. But sometimes in our culture today, we have, sometimes we need to be told, yeah, you know what? That wasn't the best choice. Now, some people find this to be their ministry, by the way, to tell the pastor everything he does wrong. I'm not suggesting that. Your pastor needs encouragement. But sometimes we're the people, we're the shimmy-eyes. We're the ones we like to throw the stones. We just don't like to have them thrown back at us. It's very interesting to me that David, his men were like, hey, you want us to take him out? And, I don't know about you, but sometimes you want to have those people taken out. Lord, just get rid of them. But David says, you know what? Maybe God sent him, number one. And number two, maybe God's going to turn this curse into a blessing. I think about that. That verse was it back with Balaam's donkey. I will turn every curse into a blessing, I believe is what it refers to. So we just got to trust God in those moments. And we need to ask the question when we get some feedback. Whether it comes in a loving way or an unloving way, we need to ask ourselves, is there any truth to this? Is there any truth to this? I have often maintained that the friends that I value the most will tell me the truth, even if it's hard for me to hear. And then I have some people that they just want to do it because they want to be right, and it's their own stuff. When you point one finger at someone else, you have three pointing back at you. Now the rule goes. But sometimes we need to just really stop and say, is there anything to this, Lord? And if not, we let it go. I like to use the phrase in my mind, I say, I acknowledge your position. I promise to wait carefully before taking any action. I've heard you. I have acknowledged that you told me something, and now I'm going to think about it and decide what I'm going to do with it. I don't necessarily agree with you. I don't know that I agree with you. I may disagree with you. I will consider it. I don't say for how long. Sometimes you just have to give it like 3 seconds and be done with it. And sometimes you'll say, I really need, maybe I am. There's something with that. Feedback is not always a bad thing. Feedback, before we start handing it out, we need to ask, I ask the question, are you open to some feedback? And sometimes people say, no, I really don't. Okay, then I won't give it to you. And, sometimes sometimes there's nothing like some good constructive criticism. Too many people give destructive criticism, not constructive. Their intentions are not to build up, but to tear down. So, as you go along, there's going to be times today that you're going to see yourself as Shimei, and God's going to give you a little nudge and say, are you doing this to, really help? Or are you doing it because you're hurting? Sometimes that's the case. We have to ask ourselves, is this about me or is this about them? And then there's other times we have to be like David, and we have to say, I need to take a look at this, and I'll give it some thought and decide what I'm going to do about it, pray about it, and go from there. So I am going to leave it right there, wind chasers. Keep chasing the wind because the wind is chasing you. Until next time, I'm Pastor Mark. Grace and peace.